So I leveled up my personal brand game using my design skills. So let me tell you why I think design is so important for all of us to create better content. Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about design skills and why learning the fundamentals of design can help us grow faster and create better content online. For me, design almost feels like a cheat code. We can make anything seem more impressive just by giving it that extra creative flair. So not only will we look at the reasons why learning design is really important, but I'll also give you some recommendations on how you can get started towards the end of the video. The way I see it, no matter how crap a product actually is, but if it's been designed really well, then I'm naturally drawn more towards it. And this is exactly what consumer research also shows. When they looked at companies within the FTSE 100 index, they noticed that companies that had an emphasis on design always seemed to outperform companies that didn't by as much as 200%. So this in itself is enough for us to level up our design skills. If you're new here, my name is Yath. I'm a medical student from London, and this is the second video in my Learn With Me series. If you haven't watched the first one, you can do so here. In this series, we explore the tools and skills that allow us to build better personal brands, and I use my personal journey as an example. Okay, so 3 reasons why I think we should prioritize design skills are to stand out from the crowd, to tap into human tendencies, and to also remove a layer of friction from our creative process. Okay, so the first reason is that if we're good at design, we instantly separate ourselves from the crowd. I think nowadays a lot more of us are creating content online, and if you're watching this video, you probably are already creating a lot of great value online, but the chances are you might not be reaching the people. So when you flex a little bit of design skills, you instantly display something that is perceived as being more valuable. It shows that you've thought it through and given it more effort. And this in itself will instantly separate you from the crowd. So whilst 2 people could create the exact same value, if one person is able to display it in a way that suggests that they've, really designed it well, then I think that person will instantly stand out from the other person, even though they're both still providing the exact same value. Secondly, it appeals to human tendencies. So whilst we like to think that we're this advanced, superior species, we're actually very simple, and we tend to favor things that look really good. We think that something that is more beautiful is better. We all know that, this isn't always true, but when it comes to creating stuff online and putting stuff online, if something looks good, then we're instantly going to think it's better in some way or another than something that doesn't look good. So if you think like a designer and tap into this human tendency, then you're naturally going to connect with a lot more people. When people see something that looks good online, they want to know more, they want to spend some time looking at it, they want to explore some more. So you naturally, expose yourself to a lot more people just by having better design. For example, earlier this year, I wanted to start my own newsletter, and I knew that I wanted to write about self-improvement and mindful productivity, but I also knew that this was a heavily saturated market. So I had to think to myself, how can I be different? And that's when I realized, design is something that I have, and it's something that I'm, half decent at. So why don't I leverage this and make sure design is a #1 priority in my newsletter? And for this, I think my newsletter is doing really well. And a lot of the feedback that I get these days is that, it's really valuable content, but it's also designed really well. By the way, there's a link in description if you want to check out my weekly newsletter. Finally, I think it removes an extra layer of friction from your creative process. Okay, let's say you had this idea to create this wonderful blog. Sure, you might be able to, create that blog in a matter of hours to days using a lot of services these days. But what if you didn't really quite understand the fundamentals of design? So you didn't really understand typography, you didn't understand, color choice and the combinations of colors that work. You didn't really understand spacing, alignment, and all of those sort of intricate details. Would that kind of add a layer of friction to your creative process? The way I see it, when you learn the fundamentals of design, it removes this layer of friction from your creative process, and most people can create stuff that looks pretty good with very little effort. You don't have to be this professional designer who's been doing it for 10-15 years. I think most people can design really well if they understand the fundamentals of design, and we'll cover these fundamentals in the recommendation section of this video, which is next. Okay, so there are 2 recommendations that I want to make. Make it a regular habit, and also learn the fundamentals. So just like getting better at anything, you only really get better if you do it regularly. So spend some time looking at the design element of whatever you're creating before you hit publish. Make sure the design is there as well as the content. Okay, so remember earlier I mentioned the fundamentals. So here are the fundamentals that I think you should go and read about. Typography, color, spacing, alignment, as well as smaller things like texture and balance. To help you out with this, I've left some useful links in the description down below. Okay, one last thing. To really drive home this message about design being really important, here is the Goldilocks principle for design. Okay, so great design occurs in the subtleties. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to have too much color. You don't want to have really funky typography. At the same time, you don't want to space things out too much. You want to really just make sure everything looks right in the right proportions. So here's the principle. When you overdo it, it looks unprofessional, tacky and ugly. When you do too little, it looks bland, uninteresting, almost as if you never even thought about design in the first place. But when you do it just at the right level, that's when you achieve great design. So hopefully this has motivated you to go and learn more about design. But if you do have any more questions, feel free to get in touch and make sure you subscribe for more future videos on how we can all leverage our skills and abilities to build better personal brands. And I'll leave you with this incredible quote from Maya Angelou. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. As always, leave a like, comment and subscribe so we can become better friends with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.